lag time. Okay, so now we're live. We can go ahead and let folks in. I'll admit everyone. Welcome, everyone. We'll get started in a few minutes. Hi, welcome everyone. We're just going to wait a few minutes for more of us to arrive. Good to see everyone. Welcome again, everyone. We're going to start in about 1 minute. So hello and welcome, everyone. I'm John Smalley, a librarian with the San Francisco Public Library. Thank you for all coming to our program of poetry from Oceania and Turtle Island. Before we get started, I want to take a moment to acknowledge our community and to tell you about a few of our upcoming programs. And one moment. On behalf of the Public Library, we want to welcome you to the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone, who are the original inhabitants of the San Francisco Peninsula. As the indigenous stewards of this land, and in accordance with their traditions, the Ramaytush have never ceded, lost, nor forgotten their responsibilities as the caretakers of this place. As guests, we who reside in their traditional territory recognize that we benefit from living and working on their traditional homeland. We wish to pay our respects to the ancestors, elders, and relatives of the Ramaytush community, and by affirming their sovereign rights as First Peoples. Today's program is part of the library's month-long Everybody's Climate program series, a series that we hope will inspire you to take action for a safer, greener, and more sustainable future. I want to mention a few of our programs later this week. Tomorrow at 5 p.m. in the main library, we're presenting the award-winning climate change documentary, The Reluctant Radical, with a post-screening Q&A with the film's star, environmental activist Ken Ward. And on Thursday this week, author Christina Gerhardt discusses her book, Sea Change, an Atlas of Islands in a Rising Ocean. The book includes essays, maps, art, and poetry showing island nations responding to a warming world. And we'll have free copies of this book to give away to attendees while supplies last, so come early. Lastly, if you're wondering how you can get involved in the climate justice movement, come to our next Sunday's workshop at the main library at 1 p.m. This workshop, led by Cynthia Kaufman, addresses how you can get involved starting from wherever you are. The only way forward is together. So these are just a few of the 24 programs in July's Everybody's Climate series. If you want to learn more about these programs, you can go directly to the series webpage at sfpl.org/Everybody's Climate. I will put all the links to these programs in the chat. So that ends my introductory comments. I'd now like to turn the microphones over to our hosts, the Tongan storyteller, community organizer, and scholar, Fuifuilupe Niumeitolu, and San Francisco 7th Poet Laureate and Cherokee Nation author, Kim Shuck. Thank you very much.
Well, this has been a thing to put together. I really appreciate Fui doing a lot of, if not all of the heavy lifting with this. I mean, it's one thing to hold the space, it's another thing to book the readers. So I really thank you for that. Fui is an incredible storyteller and poet and activist and educator, and it's been my enormous pleasure to work with her over the last some years, however many they've been. It's my great honor.
It's my great honor to Kim, Auntie Kim, Auntie Kim. It's my great honor. And John, you know, for me, relatives, firstly, I just want to begin off in English. I just wanted to say thank you so much, with just a heart full of humility and gratitude. Actually, also to Uncle John Smalley from the San Francisco Public Library. We really want to say thank you so much. Thank you for, you know, John, thank you for your commitment. Thank you for your commitment to our Mother Earth, to our whanua, and thank you so much for your commitment to Pacifica, Oceania, and also our indigenous peoples and communities here in the Bay Area. And also, you know, to Auntie Kim Shuck, we also just want to say thank you so much. You know, Kim Shuck, you're the one who brought us all together, really. And it's with just such a great honor always to be in Talanoa with you, and the great love that you have for your, first and foremost, for your indigenous and native peoples here in California, as well as your heart is so big that you reach out to us, your indigenous relatives across the Moana. and those of us from Oceania. So really, with such a great humility and a gratitude, we want to say, to both of you and to the San Francisco Public Library for bringing us together. And also more than that, relatives who are here today, I just want to say with a great commitment and a love for all of us here today. Relatives, before we begin our program, and thank you so much to all our relatives who are here today, and including our relatives who said that they will be here a little later. We really welcome you really with such a heart full of love and gratitude to all of you for, it's a busy time. It's a busy time for many of us, and so many catastrophes happening in our Mother Earth. So with a heart full of gratitude, we want to say thank you so much for sharing your time and your love with us tonight. We also honor the ancestors that you hold, that bring you here, and that va is really important to us. Before we begin our program, especially one that honors our ancestral relationships to land and waters, it's really perhaps the most important thing for us as well is to acknowledge that, and really with a heart full of gratitude and humility, that we are, that the San Francisco Public Library stands on unceded and stolen lands of the Ramaytush Ohlone. These are our relatives who have never given up their land. And today they continue to fight for their sovereignty, which continues to inspire us, their relatives from Moana Nui, which is the Pacific. Ako atu heni ai kole ke hufanga ngai whakatapo ko se hoko atu me he whaleni. Kai ata mo au ke whakahoko atu haki I po Talanoa he pooni. Haki I po lau mau. Vector atu heni ai whakatulo pe mo e whakatapo atu. Ki e kainga tauhi o e whanuani. Ko whanuani o ku ui a he taimini in the settler colonial maps of San Francisco. Ka koe uluaki hingoa e whanuani a koe hingoa a Ramaytush Ohlone ko Yalamu. Ko hingoa e whanuani ko Yalamu. O ko atu heni ai whakamalo maalunga ki he Ramaytush Ohlone tribe. Malo e kainga malo homo tokai. Malo homo lau famili, lau kainga mai ki ho mau kainga Pacifica. Malo e Ramaytush Ohlone malo homo dauhi o dauba. To the Ramaytush Ohlone, with great humility, we say, thank you so much. Malo e dauhi o dauba. With the greatest humility and gratitude, we say thank you. Thank you for honoring our sacred relationalities in all that you do. And it's great, with great humility to our relatives. I also just wanted to show just a few images before we begin our program tonight. And actually, as you look at these images, they're just of some of the land work that some of our Oceania and Pacific Island communities have been doing here in the East Bay and here in California to help Tauhiva, or to honor our sacred relationships with the indigenous stewards of the land. Through these projects that I will show, like the first one, I will go to it. The first one right here is the Pacifica Planting Group at Filoli Gardens. For those of you who are joining us tonight, many of our readers today are actually part of this Pacifica Planting Group at Filoli. I'll show some more photographs. And how we came into this project, relatives who are joining us, is actually through Auntie Kim Shuck. It was Auntie Kim Shuck and her generosity and her vision was actually to help was to share a piece of land, right? This is a land this is part of the Ramaytush land at a place called Filoli Gardens. So once a month, we actually go to the lands and we plant our traditional plants there. This is also a part in how we're imagining how to teach languages, how to teach traditional ecological knowledges, and also how to teach our own cultures back to our children here in the Bay Area. And so this is also the work, again, as I just mentioned, the work and the vision of Kim Shuck. And also just to say again, Kim, I'm so sorry, I can't stop saying thank you so much for your generosity. And then the next image that I wanted to share, relatives, was also a recent victory at the West Berkeley Shell Mound. For those of us who are here in California, we know that the West Berkeley Shell Mound is a recent victory, right, for the Lishan Ohlone tribe and the Sogorea Land Trust here in Oakland, California, where I'm at right now, by the way, which is Lishan Ohlone land. This is the oldest sacred site in the Bay Area, and it was very recently returned back to the Lishan Ohlone tribe. In this particular picture, this is actually a picture of a few of us standing up with the Lishan Ohlone tribal chair, Karina Gold, as you see there, standing also to Tauhiva with our Melanesian relatives who are fighting for their own lands. There is currently a genocide in West Papua. A genocide that is also an ecocide because it holds one of the largest gold mines in the world, right? And of course, like you're seeing in Turtle Island, like you're seeing throughout the world, is the extraction of land, right? And that means also the genocide of a people, right? So that's a particular, each December 1st, this is a project that we do with the Lishan Ohlone people. And the last image that I wanted to show all of you was actually from 2019. This was actually a ceremony at the West Berkeley Shell Mound. This was actually organized by Oceania and Pacifica peoples, right? For us to stand in solidarity with the Lishan Ohlone at the West Berkeley Shell Mound. As you can see to the left, there's the picture of the Morning Star flag representing the struggle to free West Papua. And on your right, you're also seeing the Kukia Mauna. This is also with our Kanaka relatives who are fighting to protect one of the most important sacred sites in Oceania, which is Mauna Kea. So relatives, just with, giving just a little bit of information. And I do that because I know that many times when I go and speak and do public presentations, and I know this is the same with every single one of you who are presenting, is that many times the audience always has maybe a flawed view of who we are as Pacifica people, right? And so I do that also because I want to show that our people, that we as peoples from Oceania, although the US classifies us as AAPI, we're actually Indigenous people. The term AAPI is actually a settler colonial term, and it is also a militarized term that actually separates us. It erases our very intimate and integral relationships to land. And so relatives, this is usually why I try to show these photographs, to show that our people, Pacifica and Oceania people, are standing in solidarity, and our tauhiva and our hearts are always with our Indigenous relatives of the lands that we now currently occupy and call our homes. So this also leads us to actually the most important part of our program today. You're going to be hearing stories and also poems by amazing Oceania. I mean, amazing is not even the word. Incredible warriors who use words and stories, our Indigenous cultural practices, as weapons against settler colonialisms, as weapons against the colonial violence that we know so well in our communities. And their words and their stories and their poems are medicine. It is our cultural practice. It is a medicine to fight and also to reimagine and to create healing in our communities. So we'll begin off today with our niece, Leila Tamale, whose ancestral roots goes back to Tonga and also to Italy. So we'll begin with you, Niece, and then we'll go also to Nikki, who traces her ancestral roots to Aotearoa, New Zealand. Malo apito, everyone.
Tio to'ofa kainga. Thank you so much, Auntie Fui. That was a beautiful grounding. I have chills. It was, yeah, I'm just so grateful to you, Auntie Fui, to you, Auntie Kim, to John and the rest of the organizing and operating team who have put this event together. I think for all of the reasons that Auntie Fui was saying, we need these kinds of spaces. We need them often. We need them to be part of our practices, our daily lives and routines. And so I'm just so grateful to the folks who have brought all of these poets together. And I was so shocked and humbled that I was invited to be part of this. And so I'm just really, really grateful. I'm thrilled. I'm a little nervous. But it's just such an honor to be here reading my poetry alongside poets whose work I started reading at the beginning of my poet journey before I even had the courage to call myself a poet. Yeah, a little bit of background on myself. As Auntie Fui was saying, my name is Leila Tamale. I use she, her pronouns. I was born and raised here in the Bay Area in San Mateo, California. On my father's side, I am Tongan, Samoan, and Fijian from the village of Tokomololo in Tongatapu and the village of Makave in Vava'u. And on my mom's side, I'm French. Italy was close though, Auntie Fui. But yeah, and I am currently the laughing faces are getting me. But I'm currently a master's student at Stanford University, getting my master's degree in environmental communications. And I just received my bachelor's in comparative studies in race and ethnicity from Stanford as well, with a concentration in the arts. Yeah. And so firstly, I'm going to share an image of, let's see, a place that is really special to me. Let's see, can y'all see that? Okay, so this is Anapekapeka, also known in English as Swallow's Cave, on the islands of Vava'u, where my grandmother is from. And this cave, I used to live in Tonga when I was a very small child, and we would go to this cave a lot. Now, like, a lot of tourists go there. That's kind of, a hot spot for divers and things like that. But, as a kid, not knowing any of really the significance of this cave before hearing the stories or anything like that, just being there and feeling this intense presence that, you can go inside the cave, swim, and it's very deep, cavernous, and then there's a portion that you can go into the cave very deep, and I would just peer into that darkness below me and through deep into the cave, and I wouldn't feel scared. And I was afraid of the dark, but I would look into this really intense depth and darkness, and I would just feel warmth, and I wouldn't feel fear, and I would feel a magnetic pull. And that magnetic pull, as I've gotten older, and have spent years and years apart from Tonga and from this cave, it's remained and only grown stronger with the distance. And so I always think of this cave. And as I've gotten older and I've, started to explore ethnic studies and the amazing mythologized stories of our ancestors and in the Tongan culture, such as with our goddess Hikuleo, who I'm going to share another image of. But as I began to learn about more and more about Tongan history, and how our relationships to nature, to land, as Auntie Fui was talking about, I began to kind of look at Anapekapeka as pulotu, as a pulotu, and trying to imagine that kind of site. And so pulotu, to keep it brief, which is hard for us Tongans, but to try to keep it a little bit brief, pulotu is basically the ancestral homeland of Tongans, where we came from and also where our spirits return to once we pass from this realm. And so it has this underworld, cavernous, a warm island kind of connotation to it. And it's also where our goddess, who in the ancient religion, who was the supreme deity, Hikuleo, this was her domain. And it was where she guarded and protected these spirits and these sacred items that come from Pulotu. And so in this image here, in the center is one of the original sculptures of Hikuleo from the 17 and 1800s, one of the only 6 surviving sculptures that remain to this day. All of the others were burned, beaten, and destroyed by missionaries and Tongan leaders who represented the patriarchy and converted our society from a matriarchal chiefdom into a colonized patriarchal monarchy. And so looking at this, I have Hikuleo in the center, and I've kind of reworked and flipped the former image of the cave into this kind of futuristic Pulotu kind of esque landscape. And then on the left and right, I have sculptures of Hikuleo that I actually created as part of my honors thesis this past year. And on the top is a motif or kupesi that we use in Tonga for our bark cloth, our ngatu, also known in other Pacifica cultures as tapa or kapa. And then on the bottom, I have strung together a combination of Tongan, Fijian, and Palestinian women, leaders, warriors, resistance fighters, because Hikuleo's story and her relationship to land, representing our fonua, which is a Tongan word, both representing people, land, and even the womb in some uses of the word. This deeply connected story of how land and women, the divine feminine, how we suffer at the hands of capitalism, at the hands of the patriarchy. And so I wanted to create this little digital collage that weaves together the resilience of our land, of our waters, and of our women across Oceania, and for our Indigenous sisters and brothers as well in Palestine. And so now I'm going to read a poem called Ta'ahine, which means girl in Tongan. And then afterwards, I will play a soundscape building on these themes. Ta'ahine, root of your kaingas worries a young girl's mind. The virgin question written on your arms and thighs, dancing at the ta'ulunga after church, dancing between girlhood innocence and womanhood marketability, coconut oil not glistening strongly enough to signify her virginity, ta'ahine. Roots of your kainga's worries, ha'u come, ushered away from tamasi'i and tangatas, boys and men, reabsorbed into women's sacred waters, mana of your Red Sea so powerful it parts bloodlines. Ta'ahine, roots of your kainga's worries, don't you know anga whakatonga, the Tongan way, this concrete house constructed with cement bricks of godliness and whaka'apa-apa? Child, whaka'apa-apa means respect. Respecting your elders, respecting the rules of your gender, but no respecting her child cousin's right to not be by their grandfather. Whaka'apa-apa sometimes means silence. Ta'ahine, roots of your kainga's worries, you cannot be part of the kawa circle. Silly question to ask your boy cousin, silly question that begets laughter, because ta'ahine is no fellow kawa drinker, only to'a, cupbearer, a Tongan geisha supplying satiation beyond kawa's analgesic liquids. No, you serve yourself in each spoonful with a smile, as they gulp down your bitter-tasting innocence. Ta'ahine, root of your kainga's worries, ask them if they know the story of Kawa's creation. Creation born of sacrifice, born of death-giving life, born of sacrifice. I'm not here to tell you was right or wrong, merely ta'ahine, to tell you the story belongs in the reservoirs of your soul and at the forefront of your heart. because this story is about a ta'ahine like you, the original kava, who had nothing but her body to offer when the king came. To honor her kainga, she let the land her body reclaim. Out of her love and bones rose two plants, the infamous kava and sugarcane. Ta'ahine, never forget and make them remember where this all comes from, whose seeds birthed this life we see. Ta'ahine, root of your kainga. Malo. I'm gonna have to reshare this to share the sound. Let me see. Okay, share sound. Okay, and if someone could shoot me a message, if the sound isn't playing in a second, that'd be awesome. Somewhere in the islands and the waters between them, where my ancestors' bones lie, where my father and little sisters and our fruit bat and white gecko and whale relatives live today, exists Pulotu. And guarding it all stands Hikule'o.
Some people, including myself, regard this as one of the gem of our common gods. We select the beautiful ladies and teach them to be graceful. They come here, try and
Hikule'o, a tale of sound with conjunction to the echo of a multiple and complex frequency of sound and light in the mind, society, nature, and the cosmos. All my life, there's been the knowing. Alive but made dormant, defiant your will to live, but active only in the echoing, respiring dream reverberations, remembering you mana in my bone marrow, you ghost in the mirror they told me to cover at night. With mama's lava, do not invite the Aitu in. But what if the Aitu are our ancestors? The ones we all once revered before Talo'fo'fo became George, forging his precious bloody crown from souls stolen and anga whakatonga tainted. Deified grandmother prophetess, we defy as you do, we survive as you do. Hikule'o. Child, I am sorry. We should have known the white man's words held hollow. Our sliced tongues the only earth with richness. Child, I have uttered many silent prayers for homecoming, returning for all to wholeness. Child, our eldest ancestor is the ocean. Deafeningly soft, she reminds me that the deep is dark and not where fear grows. Child, do not turn away from us. We are each other's legacy. This body is not my own. This body is too the body of my ancestors whose blood is pumping blue, whose ocean drops live in my eyes' aqueducts. This body is wide-calved like my goddess ancestor Otua Fefime Hikule'o, dear ancient one. This body is hers and it is mine, this body. Malo. Thank you everybody so much.
Wow, Leila. Wani's Leila. I'm so touched, so moved by that work. And especially, a really critical work that's created with so much love and respect for, our beloved deity, Pikuleo. Thank you so much. That just brings so much tears to my eyes. My heart's so full. Thank you so much. So beautiful. So, and we will continue to talk about that beautiful work after and later. So thank you so much. And so much love as well. So much love to all your relatives. I have met your wonderful relatives, so please forgive me. For some reason, because I love pasta and I was eating pasta, I think that's why I said Italy. But definitely so much love to your mom and to your aunties who have all met. So thank you so much, Niece Leila. And so our next poet and also storyteller is Nikki. And Nikki, so much love and respect for the important work that you do for all our communities, especially showing us the importance of words and books as your work as a librarian. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Kia ora, Auntie Fui, Auntie Kim. Thank you to SFPL for the opportunity to share a little bit of my work. As Fui said, I work as a librarian here on Ramaita Shaloni land, but I am from Aotearoa and I'm a member of the Ngāti Pawa Iwi. I'm going to start by sharing an image. And this makes me look more outdoorsy than I am. So I grew up in Waitakere City, which is a city that doesn't exist anymore. It's a self-proclaimed eco-city known as West Auckland, and it was eventually folded into what's now called the Auckland region, Tāmaki Makaurau. But I was always around water as a young person. I grew up in a house that was a little bit rough, but there was a creek down the back and that connected to the Faux River. So I'd always go down there and look for tuna, which is our word for eels, and the different manu, the different birds that we have. And I'm also canoeing the Faux River in this canoe picture, although again, it looks more outdoorsy than it is. This is actually from a now defunct theme park called Footrock Flats. So that's a little bit about where I'm from. So I'm going to go ahead and read probably 3 poems for you this evening. The first one is called Te Toi Uku, and I particularly wanted to read this one because it was just published in an Aotearoa journal called Headland, which is edited by Matua Robert Sullivan and Briarwood. Te Toi Uku. I'm looking to score, scrolling eBay again as dusk rolls around. Sunday silvering slipcast into yearning for tui and temuka too. Scrutinizing the listings, I transform from antiques roadshow enthusiast to curator, family historian. That's Nan's cup, our plates. 1 minute, you're a kid in Henderson, turning your nose up at powdered milk in Ironstone. Then you're thrown into a cyber war, bidding against those Herne Bay hobbyists who adorn their mantles with rows of chalky vases in matte and monochrome. No longer cradling armfuls of tulips, the tea rooms have closed. Funny how luxury chips away at domesticity, and the rich sport the veneer of the everyday. I watched a doco about the factory once and spotted my whanaunga, the one whose painted sign still decorates our marae. She, a steady fire, honey-glazed and smiling, painting ashtrays while jostling Bub on her hip. Workers thrust their hands into the foe, dodging tuna, dredging clods of clay that yield under careful fingertips before blooming above the wheel's circumference. I'd be happy spinning teacups and going on smoko too. Open up, I'll be there. Funny, such tender refinement in porcelain and at odds with our Westie rep. But everyone wants us, our radiant Cody gum, wild magnetic beaches, our wine and velocity. I bid on a blue butter dish and consider my whanaunga, carving corridors through the sky, the flight path perhaps resembling the gently curved neck of a white swan. Living abroad in a city of earthquakes, collecting vintage breakables is my biggest flex. It's an absurd love, knowing that any day could bring a shattering. Kia ora. This next poem is set in Brittany, France, and it's called Garfield Telephone. At low tide, the sea cave expels clouders of carrot-colored cats. Generations of Britons will pluck hundreds of plastic Garfield phones, fragmented out of the waves. They settle in layers like lasagna, sandpapered airs bursting through silt, cords becoming petrochemical kelp. Faceplates untouched by taniwha, leaving landlines brailing the shoreline. Cats crater themselves into the coast with the heated intensity of a sunbeam. So many calls have gone unanswered. So many handsets swept off the hook like a worm deemed too small to lure. Bottlenose dolphins catfish for sport. Their spoils will last forever. Ake, ake, ake. The cat that can't stop eating will never stop being eaten. If you raise a seashell to your ear, you can hear it echo. Polymer, polymer, polymer. A downward glancing seagull strikes at an algae bloom and gets a nasty surprise. A hermit crab embraces an indestructible shell. Accidents, like industries, have consequences. To leave a message for Tangaroa, press 1. Kia ora. So this will be my last one that I will share with you this evening. It's a work in progress. This is called Heat Tolerance. We'd rather our throats erode than guzzle the Fiji water your colonizer flatmate stashed in the fridge. So here I am, sharing a POG with you. On our way to the rematriation celebration, we spot train station starlings nesting among spiked windowsills. You hand me a mask and rattle off the air quality index while I consider the hostile architecture of our brown lives. We are sharing flyers for the next kohanga reo, reading up on filtering water with layers of gravel, sneaking hard-boiled lollies into our go bags, and I am building my heat tolerance with you. Is it normal to buckle against a king tide at this time of year? Does your pulse join the murmurations at this time of day? Have you noticed the ragged coyotes reclaim this part of the country? Can you sense that? The electricity spike localized entirely within your kitchen. Today, the high is supposed to hit 40, which is 104 if you're counting the wrong way, which you always are. Our fingers graze together like strands of rimurapa, then drift apart as we pitch ourselves into Te Moana Nui Akiwa. You say, water is life. I say, yeah, like in Mortal Kombat, submerging myself to avoid your gaze. Tangaroa rolls his eyes, and we tread water backwards into the future. I am talking to my neighbors about compost bins. I am painting my face to block facial recognition of all kinds. I don't have any real plan for disaster preparedness, but I am building my heat tolerance with you. Kia ora.
Wow, wow. Si malo pita Nikki, malo pita maokoloa. That was beautiful. And Nikki, I was listening to your last poem there. I wish I had known that you were at the rematriation, the West Berkeley Shell Mound celebration. What is it about last week, right? And so I wish I had known that you were there so we could have eaten snacks together and stuff. So, but
Next time.
Next time. Yeah. Nikki, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you for your great, beautiful work. And so up next is an amazing storyteller as well, and also poet, amazing young scholar from Guam. So Hafadai, please forgive me for my pronunciations. Hafadai and Niece Jayna. There you are, Niece Jayna. Niece Jayna, I don't know, I can't hear you right now.
Hafade, can you hear me right now? Hi, everyone. Feeling so much love. I'm going to try and share my screen real quick, 1 second. And Saida Ma'asi, Auntie Fui, Kim, and John for the powerful introductions. Just feeling so honored and humbled to be with everyone here. 1 second. Yeep. All right. I just have a couple short poems to share with you all. But to introduce myself, Hafide Na'anhusi Jayna Lizama, Chamoru. I come from the family clans Kadu Zanipilaku of Guahan and Saipan. On my mother's side, she is Mafnes Lizama from Talo'fo'fo, and my biological father's side is Dueñas Borja. I'm not in relation with my biological father, however, I am with my relatives on that side, so I want to honor them as well. This is a photo of Talo'fo'fo Falls. I had the privilege of visiting in 2019 to watch my brother graduate from high school. And I don't get the opportunity to visit home often, as many folks know it's expensive if you're in the diaspora. So it was really meaningful to be here with my brother in our family village and to really just be there together with my mom and my grandfather. And so I have a couple poems for you to share. One moment. The first one is called Rituals. Each evening after school, ceremony was held. Dusk on your lap, fanning mosquitoes away from sweaty thighs. Your fingertips cast love spells on white plastic chairs. Smelling secrets within iridescent vases next to family photos, spam, Ichiban towers, a practice alongside the unfamiliar grown familiar. Loving tired roots, sprouted coconut tree, sprouted coconut milk, oil, body. Hearing dreams beyond altar, beyond gallery. Could there be something such as a sacred museum? We sat patient for the Tatamotna that liked to dance. Excuse me. They watch us cry and laugh as ashes fell from black cherry-stained lips. Through rustling clouds of ember, we sing songs with the moonlight. So that's the first poem. But I felt like I didn't share too much about where I'm at. I'm currently a student wrapping up my time here at unceded Patwin territory in so-called Davis, California. It's been an experience to be here and lovely to learn more about the place and people of this place. And so just looking forward to one, being done with academia, and Tifui. I don't know if I could have lasted as long if it weren't for you, but just really grateful. This next poem and my last poem is called Karapilan. And this one's more new. This is actually the first event that I'm sharing publicly, so pardon me if I'm like looking down and maybe a little stuttery and shy, but yeah. Strung along my mother's shoulder, lying Diputi Siha, perennial fortress drumming reflection on the bridge of my nose, widening armor lay against a door to her. Fluttering dance in the troughs, like many children of our islands taught songs of the moon, pulling a tidal lineage that connects us in breath, Ekunok Ihinagongmu, hunger pluming earth, digging crevice, hug our return home. In prayer fills our cheeks, in prayer, brave illumination, ebb of fear beholden to what also anchors ridges. To watch, drawing trust as it motions our dreams, to guard stories that carry no stoic glory over wondrous emergence in layers of bedrock. Taina Ma'asi, thank you so much.
Malo, niece Jayna. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your beautiful work. And also, you know, I just really want to say, as a young person, and you as a young person, and for all of us, you know, whether we're young or not, but the, you know, doing public speaking is really difficult, and to share work, you know, especially such intimate work like you're doing, it requires so much courage. And so I just really want to say thank you so much. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for showing up for us today, Jayna. Love you so much. Love you so much. And so, relatives, our next storyteller and our poet is also Kanaka Maoli, an amazing little sister who I've just seen her work, you know, as a leader of her people, especially leading her people to you know, fighting for Hawaiian sovereignty and fighting for the land. So it's really great to have you here with us, Mahealani.
I'm going to share my screen to show a photo. Let's see. So this photo is in the mountains of Lahaina. So aloha mai kako o Mahealani Ahia ko inoa no Maui ko ohana a ka ohana o ia ma Kaliponi. So aloha, I'm Mahealani. Mahealani is full moon, so I'm really grateful to be able to share some stories with you on our series of full moons. We have 4 of them. Mahealani being the last, the one that fades longest into the next morning and the light stays out just a little bit into the morning hours. I am diasporic, born on the Tongva lands and raised about an hour south in Dana Point on the lands of the Ahashiman, who have been working really hard to reclaim some of their aina. And so I'm looking forward to going home to see my parents this summer and see how they're doing with their rebuilding. Right now, I'm actually zooming in the Zumalani from Kaneohe, Oahu. I'm a PhD student at University of Hawaii at Manoa. I am in really my last year of my dissertation. I'm super excited. I will be moving to the East Coast in about 2 weeks. I was selected for the Henry Rowe Cloud Dissertation Writing Fellowship at Yale. So I will be braving the very cold weather to dedicate a whole year without having to teach to my kupuna Kihawahine. And so as you look at this photo, this is Mauna Kaho'olawai in Lahaina. If you were to scroll down below this photo, those Maunas would be overlooking Lahaina, overlooking Moku'ula, which is where the deity Mo'o, reptilian water deity, Kihawahine lives in Moku'ula. She is the subject of my biography dissertation. I'm telling her life story. She was originally a 16th century chief, daughter of Pi'ilani. I can trace my genealogy back 22 generations to Pi'ilani, so she is a great aunt of mine. Upon her death, her bones were wrapped in yellow kapa and they were placed into Mokihinia Pond, where she was deified to become a great lizard goddess. She has taken many forms besides a lizard, a white dog, a spider, an alluring woman. And so over the generations, we have both family stories and written accounts in the Hawaiian newspapers, which I've been translating to basically tell her story. And it's more crucial than ever. We call her the OG Kia'iwai, like the old school water protector. She is the original for Lahaina. And since the Lahaina fires, almost exactly a year ago now, folks have been calling on her again to restore the wai. And this is one of our most essential issues right now, restoring our waterways. I am also a kia'i for Haleakala, having been arrested and been at all 4 of their major standings, because so many folks from Mauna Kea came to stand alongside us for Haleakala when they put out their kahea. Of course, my sister and Kane and I all went to Mauna Kea. We were all 3 there for the full 8 months and dedicated our time there. I produced some work out of that that sits in the Me Too realm, in the biography series that UH put out, their journal, as well as some other shorter pieces and poetry. And I am the co-editor of the Mauna Kea Syllabus Project, which was able to pull voices together from all over to kind of tell the story of colonialism and our fight against imperial science and its misguided ways. Those same misguided colonialisms have really affected Lahaina. They say that at one point during Pi'ilani's period, this whole area that you see would have been completely green. It was considered one of the most lush places in all of the islands. A little bit to the left, if you were looking at it, would be a huge watershed, which is considered like the 3rd greatest water resource in the Pacific Ocean. It had an immense amount of rainfall there. Unfortunately, because of plantation era politics, all of this became plantation. And when the plantations left, they did not leave entirely. They left our land scorched, and they continue to try and hold on to the rights of water, which, as we know, is a public trust. So we were fighting those particular issues now. And so I wanted to dedicate some of my poetry to Lahaina today, the place that, as a diasporic Kanaka, really informs who I am, my identity, my connections, my pilina, my relationality. It is the first place I ever traveled to that my feet felt at home. My feet felt grounded. And even here on Oahu, it's not the same. My feet know when they're in Lahaina for some amazing way that my kupuna called me home. I've been working in storytelling since my bachelor's at UC Berkeley and a creative writing program at UC Irvine. And then during my master's program in Santa Barbara, I started having a recurring dream that I could oli and olelo Hawaii, which is to chant and sing in Hawaiian. And because I did not know how to do either of those at that time, it was 2008, I took it as a ho'elona, or sign that I must move home. So I moved home here. My uncle happened to be living in that tract of housing right there that you see at the base of the mountain. And at that point, he didn't even know that we were right beneath the mo'o Ahia. So my last name is Ahia, so I'm a lineal descendant of this place. And this story is really important to me as a diasporic Kanaka because it connects me to the rest of Moana Nui. So I wanted to share a little story because these stories inform the poems. You'll hear the allusions. So if you look in the to the right, you're going to see a mountain opening, and that is Mauna Kawahine, Kawahine being the woman, so the mountain woman, and that they consider her kohe, or her womb. And right to the left, you will see a smaller shape of a baby mo'o, and they say that he actually jumped out of Mauna Kawahine, and he leapt and bounded all the way down to Rapa Nui. And Rapa Nui folks have a story of Te Pita o Te Whanua, which to us is the piko, the umbilical cord of the Aina. And so we share this story as he left his iave and his piko there in Rapa Nui, but as he made his footprints all the way back to his mama, he went through Tuvalu and Moorea. And so we have some of these shared stories throughout the Pacific that land him back into this mountain, and he's kind of perched up against his mama's lap. It's mo'o ahia. Ahia means to fade. And so it's, or obscure. So it's kind of like the mo'o's there sometimes and sometimes it's not. And they say if you are a genealogical descendant, you will sometimes see him move his head around. I have had some experiences where I was up in Kauaula Valley and I felt his presence very close to me, like actually like moving over my foot. And so my family and I still call on this aumakua, or this ancestral guardian, to guide us. And so this is what a lot of my work is. And I'm going to read you a poem dedicated here. Called When the Aina Calls You Home. When the Aina calls you home, at first subtle nudging for a certain taste, texture on the tongue, you know the kind, when you're ono for that salty limu poke, raw fish that slides down your throat and leaves a distinctive smell that others catch and moan for. When the Aina calls you home, like a dream lover entranced, you cross oceans to find yourself in places familiar yet never visited. Time blackouts, foggy memories, because you're lumbering into Po, the realm of the ancestors and future ancestors. Darkness, deep and disorienting to your time-bound mind, lipo, where all forms of life begin and return. When the Aina calls you home, if you don't quench your insatiable thirst for icy river rock vibe purified by pounding waterfalls, thick as thighs, balancing on mossy rocks, searching for yellowed leaves, warning that the mo'o is home. Will she pull you under her watery grave, swallow you whole? Just children's stories, urban myths. But Auntie did see. Do you believe? Are you a relative? Will she recognize you as kin with your tongue forked in English accents, alelo, tongue stretched long as the mo'o matriarch, mo'oina nea? In a bridge her descendants crossed so carefully to their victories. When the Aina calls you home, will you answer that nudge in your na'au? You say you listen to your gut, but do you actually follow intuition? Can your generation still hear without ears? Feeling that whole-bodied yes, you must go against all reason and logic and leave behind former selves like the shedding of skins, not a phoenix from the flames, not a rebirth and a new body, but a new form and a new way of walking with Hawaiian feet. You know, the kind uncle laughs when you walk on jagged a'al and doesn't even flinch. No need slippers. Let the toes sink into the sand and never mind the burning. Because your feet sense they belong, where your feet listen to the earth's lullaby. When the Aina calls you home, like a mother's caress held securely in mountain arms, suckling you on her rivers, refreshing clear from the highest peaks, narrowing into shallow ponds and rivulets that feed wide Lo'ikalo to feed the people who return those waters to the streams that flow gently to the sea and wind beneath the earth caverns, reappearing in the ocean as punawai, icy springs beneath your feet, where she teaches you to grow. When the Aina calls you home, no longer a subtle tug, but a pull with the strength of an umbilical cord, or like a swimmer caught in a riptide, losing grip on reality, disoriented, flailing about, calling out for help, but no one sees you drowning, when your legs feel thoroughly exhausted from fighting against gravity, but determined to find a new home. Home, not home, not One Hanau birth sands, not born here, not Hawaiian enough. Hawaiian, Portuguese, English, Irish, Scottish, French, pale skin, ehu, curly hair, California twang, but you don't look Hawaiian. I'm Hapa. Isn't that half Japanese? You're too tall. Diasporic, searching for my place without a map, without knowing the names of stars and constellations to guide this va'a home. When the Aina calls you home, will there be drama? Like in the story of the sisters fleeing Kahiki, fighting over their lover, Pele fiercely finding a new volcano to light her home fires, Namaka o Kaha'i drenching those same fires with her watery revenge. Ah, sibling love, classic. Or will your story be like Mauna Kawahine, who when she was ready to birth, her kohe opened up and out leapt the baby Mo'oahia, who bounded down the island chain to Rapa Nui, where his pito and his ieve stay. And you can still see the Mo'o footsteps left across Moana Nui as he finally came home to rest his head upon his mama's lap. Can you see him in the mountains? Will he show himself to you too? When the Aina calls you home, will you learn to surf the waves of intergenerational trauma, of colonialism, of militarism that bombs the heiau on our beloved Koho'olave across the ocean, of Christianity that deems you pagan savage child? Will you drown in their messages that tell your ancestors were pitiful victims of inevitable march of time? Or will you surrender and allow Aina, Moana, Mother Ocean give you buoyancy? Surrender to the secrets below as the world opens up to our ancestors beneath the sea. You cannot fight the tumultuous waves. You must let the ancestors of the sea teach you to surf in tandem with the ancestor trees whose second life is shaped into your surfboard. Perch yourself on the crest, trusting the weight of your instincts to keep your balance. Psychology calls it the lizard brain, as if that instinctual knowledge is less valuable than your overthinking brain. As a Mo'o descendant, my lizard ancestors know this gift of resiliency against the tyranny of Western science. It has kept us alive, taught us to move with ease between sea and land, shape-shifting, adapting, surviving, regenerating, regrowing our limbs and our languages, restoring our waters, reviving from the ground up as our nature does. We are always here. When the Aina calls you home, will you finally understand spiritual truth? Aina is a kua, aumakua, kupuna. Aina is wahine, kane, mahu. Aina can take your life or save it. Parent, lover, child, beloved, sibling, kin. Aina is all these and much more at the same time. It has the strongest mana. For when Aina calls you home, it will not stop until you return. So get ready. Aina is making ready to call all her children home. Mahalo, I'm going to stop sharing screen and I'll read you one more poem. And this particular poem comes from a zine that we created called Decolonial recipes for post-pandemic living. And it was created during the COVID time, a collective project of Indigenous feminists. And I offered this poem. This poem is called A Recipe for Deep Decolonial Listening. A Recipe for Deep Decolonial Listening. This recipe works best when shared intergenerationally with elders, adults, and young people, especially while sitting barefoot on ancestral shorelines. Ingredients: 1 fist full of righteous anger lifted to the sky in solidarity. 2 hands cupped together, drinking fresh, clear vai directly from undiverted flowing streams. 1 seashell, preferably a conch shell or spiral sound catcher. 1 apu ava, preferably a coconut cut of masticated ava root, substituted if needed with powdered variety if unavailable due to colonial dispossession. 2 palms full of one hanau. Allow those birth sands to scrub away foreign toxic desires upon your lands and bodies. 1 pinch of pa'akai, hand-collected from ancient salt ponds, now restored to sanctify. 2 roots of olena, to dye your apron a royal sunshine, and to heal most any ailment internally or externally. Some optional bunches, razor-sharp leaves to cut through colonialism. Instructions: sound your conch shell by blowing like a horn to kahea and call your loved ones to gather. Allow the long breath to mimic the ebb and flow of ocean waves. Prepare your cooking space. Enter with a sense of purpose, aloha, discernment, sharing, caring, and reciprocity. Chant an oli or offer a prayer inwardly to the Aina and Aumakua guarding your placemaking connections. Remember, don't arrive empty-handed. Don't take more than you need. Pack out all your opana when you leave. Introduce yourself and name your familial and feminist genealogies and connections to the Aina which feeds us and is the very source of life. Begin in humble gratitude and acknowledge the land you are on, avoiding the word standing or other ableist language. Admit that simply proclaiming an acknowledgement is not nearly enough, and if it does not come with actions like land back, returning land and resources, then it will actually poison your recipe. Invoke all the intersectional social position identity markers and invite all of your ancestral guardians to the space so as not to forget any of the 4,000, 40,000, 400,000 akua kinolau. Pause, like a musical rest, and listen and watch for ho'ailona, those signs confirming you're welcome and ready to begin. In a separate container, preferably hand-woven baskets, or at least reusable materials that will not end up in our landfills, shake up wahine, mahu, and kane expectations created by monogamous heteropatriarchy. Or if you're still fearfully inclined to avoid the white fragility, slowly fold in decolonial concepts gently to taste. Sift through the sands of historical erasure, trauma, survivance, resurgence, emergence, and build castles of liberation. Combine perspectives, but do not mix too thoroughly that you blend out difference and become bland. Knead like dough and let it rise up like ea. Sprinkle the first bit of ava to bless our Earth Mother and all our relations, akua, aumakua, kupuna, and then drink. Eola. Mahalo nui to all of you for allowing me to join you. It's been really an amazing honor to be in such company. Mahalo nui.
Mahalo, mahalo. Mahalo, Mahealani. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. When Aina calls you home. Wow, that's definitely a beautiful, that is actually the theme of our evening. So thank you so much. Thank you for your beautiful work and congratulations on all the, just the amazing blessings and beautiful things that are happening in your life. So well deserved. So well deserved. So, and Next up, we also have Lehua, also Hafade Lehua, who also does such beautiful and important work here in the Bay Area. So much love for you, Lehua. Lehua is also part of our Filoli project. And Lehua, every time you come, thank you so much for the mana that you bring to our group. I forgot to say as well that our sister Nikki, who offered her beautiful offerings, who shared her beautiful offerings, earlier, is also an important part of our Pacifica Filoli planting project. So thank you so much, Nikki. And Lehua, just want to say, I'm looking forward to hearing your beautiful work. Thank you for being here.
Sainama Asi to you, Hui, and Auntie Kim, and the San Francisco Public Library. Mahafade, Todas Hamzu, Guahusi, Lehua Taitano, Familian Cabeza, Sanquetu, Gidza Zigu, Na Song Song, Sumatagazu, Gidza Tanu, Na Rametush Aloni, Na Tau Tau. Hello, everyone. My name is Lehua Taitano. I am a Chamorro human who makes things, and I currently live in what is called San Francisco. I'm going to screen share with you, and you should see a photograph of a very special and sacred place to me and certainly other Chamorro people. This is Atsufua, also called Fua Rock, and I'm going to give you a little bit of background information about this place, and I'm going to read 2 tiny poems. So I'll talk story a little bit, and we'll have 2 small poems. So a Chamorro creation story is that the world was created by siblings, and the 2 siblings are Puntan and Fu'una. And when they were in the void, they decided that they needed to create, as we are compelled to do as humans. And so Puntan sacrificed his body to create the world, and Fu'una used his body to shape the sea, which was from the black tresses of his hair. She plucked one eye, and it became the moon in the heaven. She plucked another, it became the sun. His eyebrows became rainbows, and his torso and back became the islands of Guam and the Marianas. And I love sharing this story because it gives deep insight into how we view our relationship to land, our relationship to water, to sky, to everything that we can see. And we not only come from this land, but we are related to it. So the land is very literally our ancestor. And so after Fu'una shaped the land and sea, she sacrificed her own body, and she crouched down into the ocean near the shore of Guam, and the waves crashed over her body, and over millennia, the small rocks started to break away from her body where she crouched, and those rocks became the Tau Tau, the people, us. And so this photograph is of Fua Rock, and this rock that we see is regarded as the body of Fu'una herself. So a very special place to me. I had the privilege of visiting as someone who lives in diaspora in 2022, and the feeling of being there, of having my feet on this land, actually being able to touch Fua Rock is something that I don't really, I can't really put to words at the moment, but I do have a poem, a small poem that I will share that is kind of a summary of where we come from as Chamorro people. And this is called Shore Song. Our people were shaped from stone and the pulsing sea. Sisters crouched, body, wave kneaded, salt lapped. until we tumbled from her, of them, all strong, strong and whole together. Birds regarded our seafoam anklet, our slippery ropes of hair, our cheeks full of pebbles and scattered from the shore, singing. We opened our new mouths to our own chorus, crooning, sister, brother. We are sun, moon, sky, water, earth, all siblings. And then I would like to, I'm going to finish with another short poem. I've looking through some of the poems I wanted to read today, I realized that I have a pattern of writing about my love affairs with lakes. And so I had to pick which love poem am I going to read, which lake do I want to honor? And I have a chapbook that I wrote, which is a long poem called Sonoma. And upon moving to California, almost 13 years ago now, Lake Sonoma was the first place that I really got to explore. And then I did some research into the history of Lake Sonoma, and it's a little bit ugly. So I ended up writing this long love poem. Before I read the introduction to this, which is what I'd like to read today, I'm not going to read the poem Sonoma, but it does have an introduction and a prelude. I want to recognize that I think this is the first time that a family member of mine is actually here for a reading. And it's hard to believe that I'm saying that. I've been reading for, I think, almost 20 years. But my nephew, Andrew Kevin, is here watching. And I just want to say a special Kāi Tahu, I love you. And I'm so proud of you. And thank you for joining. So I'm gonna read the prelude to Sonoma, and that's where I will end. It has an epigraph as well. And the epigraph is, cultural resource studies in the Lake Sonoma area began in 1964 when Aidan Treganza, an archaeologist from San Francisco State College, and his small crew surveyed the area for prehistoric sites. Although several sites were found during their brief reconnaissance, none was judged important enough to warrant excavation. Construction began on the Warm Springs Dam in 1967. And that's from Pretzelis and Stewart, Before Warm Springs Dam, A History of Lake Sonoma Area, 1985. And so this is a little nonfiction, just a couple of paragraphs that kind of introduces my experience as an Indigenous person on other Indigenous people's land here in California. I stuffed a sack with 2 days worth of warmth, food, and light, and slid a slender boat onto the waters of Lake Sonoma almost immediately upon arriving at my new home in Northern California. I was alone, familiar with no one or nothing, not yet comfortable with the word Californian. I had just driven 3,000 miles in a zagging path across springtime America. I was in love, maybe, with still healing from physical and emotional trauma, maybe, and was definitely in dire need of myself. For me, always, there is some quality of being adrift that serves to center. To be afloat is to be at once in and out of control, a condition in which one can drop a plumb line of consciousness into uncertain depths and test the tautness of adaptability, the sway of emotional well-being. To be from an island, yet to exist off island, is to continually reconcile the waters. So I found a boat and a lake, and I thought of the way the lake had come to be and the way of history that floods and flushes out those who would call the land at the bottom of the lake home, and the stories and languages of those displaced people, Pomo, Miwok, whose sacred sites were drowned to make the place where boats like mine could float above on any given Wednesday in spring, which made me think of my own displacement and of being in maybe love too, which is to say, of living still and seeking happiness still and finding a new home in a land not my own, in the middle of the ache of being one who is displaced and alone with myself. On the banks of that flooded place, I wrote the love letter, Sonoma, the elegy, Sonoma, the maybe long poem, Sonoma, the floating words swirling in a canoe, Sonoma, for my brothers and sisters set adrift. And because that's a major tease to read the foreword and not the poem itself, I'm going to just read the first couple of lines of the poem. It's telling me. Share a couple. So this is the first part. Sonoma. I will say golden and I will say turn. Light I'll utter and also gulf. Stubble you should know and shake to the upward flick of a sound you might swallow. Water shadow, lichen, the nose of a swimming creature, slick. Sana ma'asi. Thank you so much. I am honored to be reading with such amazing folks, and I thank you for your time.
Malo, Lehua, malo Ngawi, right? To write poems and to do the work that you do with the critical eye and with the compassion and love is difficult work. Relatives, please forgive me. I live in East Oakland. You're going to be hearing the train in behind. So please don't be afraid. That is a sound actually we hear in East Oakland so many times. But so you're going to hear it sometimes when I talk. Lehua, returning back to you also, we just really want to give a big shout out also to your family member that's here, Andrew. I mean, that is so special, right? To see a family member. You know, when we talk about poetry, Lehua, and you know this very well, and
then maybe I can ask him to come back and switch them out, because
can we just turn that on?
When I talked to you about the dimmer switch.
We're hearing some other sounds. Is that coming up on you guys' Zoom, or is it just mine? Yeah, okay. Lehua, I just wanted to say that, you know, you talked about how long you have been doing poetry, and yet you haven't seen a family member, that this is one of the first times. You know, I just want to say, you know, we hear this all the time, that in our communities, in our Oceania communities, many of us, because of the ways poetry has also been colonized and the ways that it's been presented to our communities, is that there isn't an access. So for our communities, many of us don't believe that poetry, or even having a Pacifica and Oceania poetry circle, is something that they should attend. And so, of course, this is, you know, the great work that many of you are doing, is to help heal those wounds. And so, Lehua, I just want to also just give a big shout out to your relative that's here. That's so big. And so, thank you, relatives, for staying with us. We're almost done. You know, our last two poets, please, relatives, please stay so that you can hear the medicine and the mana that they bring with them. Up is, you know, I heard you use the word matua, Nikki, right? Definitely, which is also, of course, a sign of respect. Is Dr. Robert Sullivan. And, you know, in this presentation, excuse me, Talanoa, everyone, relatives who are joining us, is that each presenter is going to introduce themselves. You know, with Dr. Robert Sullivan, I just really want to say whakawhitai. Malo Dr. Sullivan for really accepting our humble invitation to be here. Right. As Nikki also mentioned in her offering, is that you played a vital role in getting her work published. And I'm sure, like you are for so many of us, just a support. You know, you always show us that actually poetry is a cultural practice. It is also a cultural value for us from Oceania. Relatives, you know, Dr. Robert Sullivan, had the great honor of meeting him at UC Berkeley campus when I was really struggling to finish writing, right? To finish this dissertation that took let's just say it didn't take any, let's just say I transcended Western time, right? If we want to say that in a positive way. But when Robert Sullivan came to our campus, he actually, he did a lot for us from Oceania for the first time, right? For those of us who were reading all the work by colonial artists, colonial writers, and colonial theorists, Robert Sullivan was actually, he helped save our lives, if I can put it that way. Me and the other PhD students and undergraduate students who attended his reading, that was a full house. Robert Sullivan reminded us again to be proud of our ancestral roots from Moananui. And Dr. Sullivan, it's a great honor. Thank you so much for being here.
O tēnā koe te mārekura, Fuifuilupe. Ngā mihi aroha ki a koe, ngā mihi whakawhetai. Kia tātou katoa. Yeah, we're all here, we're all representing. We're being ourselves. We're being poets and storytellers, and we're sharing things that we know matter. So no matter, you know, where you are or what you're thinking, like I'm just near our state highways. You might hear trucks as I'm reading, because I live right next door to our State Highway 1 in Te Waipounamu, which is the South Island of Aotearoa. So I chose this image behind me because I'm Kāi Tahu on my father's side. We're from Te Taiao Araitiuru, which is the coast of the Araitiuru waka, or ancestral vessel. And behind me is a row of mountains, and ka tiritiri o te moana, also known as the Southern Alps. And below them is one of our traditional food gathering places. And so you heard Nikki talk about tuna. So, you know, we love tuna, and lots of other traditional foods too. Unfortunately, because of colonization, we lost a lot of our forests and a lot of our wetlands. Our traditional food gathering places have been turned into, I guess you could say, a neo-European farm. So, yeah, we're often likened to parts of England these days. But we know the stories, we know the names. And so I thought I'll start with a reading, trying to channel our ancestors. And I love being amongst you. I love your honouring of our ancestors. And I heard our ancestor poets too. I dedicate my reading to Caroline Sinavayana, my colleague and friend, who passed away terribly not so long ago. But I could also hear in Mahealani's words our leader, Hanani Trask, as well. I heard her. So this is called He Karakia Timatanga, which means an opening prayer. It's from a book called Star Waka. And you know what a waka is, though. An ancestral vessel, or the tribe. A prayer to guide waka out the throat between Hawaii's teeth, the last green speckled glove of coast, past up-thrust knee and rock toe, in the distance to paddle and sail towards sunset. When each crack in the house of the sun is submerged, doors and windows cloaked by night, charred sky where stars become arrows, lit signs travelling across the black zone. A prayer to hold lashings and fittings close amid the swelled guts of Tangaroa. A prayer to scoop out sustenance. Sweet fish caught by divers in bright salt water, marinated in coconut and hunger. A prayer to keep food for the 2-week trip to Aotearoa, gourds intact, yam and taro and kumara gods alert to the slap and grab of a restless swell, whether in the breast or seabed. A prayer, a declaration for quick land, straight seas and health of all parts celestial, temporal and divine. food, music, and drink of this star waka. The chanted rhythms, hoia, hoia ra, storms, hoia, hoia ra, 1,000 years, hoia, hoia ra, fleet mothers of tales, hoia, hoia ra. I greet you in prayer, O star, O waka, and pray for your combination here. He karakia mō kaurua e te waka, e te whetū o te ao nei, star and waka, a prayer for you both. And then, oh, kia ora. I wrote this poem this morning. I posted it on Facebook. I've started putting my poetry just on Facebook because you get all the emojis and stuff. You know, it's a bit like this chat on the Zoom call. It's kind of cool. You get instant feedback. And my Facebook friends seem to like it, so I'll read it to you. And it's called Who Gave the Names Here? And the phrase kōrero nehera means ancient stories. Who gave the names here? We know who made them from our kōrero o nehera. We know their parents who stood between their parents. So I will fly in time to see what is to be seen. Tāne mahuta moving over rocks, over valleys, over trees, over leaves and petals, moving over inside earth, creatures, hanging creatures, flying, climbing, gripping, walking, crawling, sliding and inching creatures, twig, bark, leaf parts like fingers, stumps, brachioles, as homes for huhu, for manu, for weta, for ruru, branches for snares, earth, rustle, litter, falls and felling of Tāne with his male side and his female side. So who named it Spaniard? The perfumed oil of taramea on our skin oil, collected drop by drop over home fires, despite its sharp leaves. So who named it parson bird, or bellbird, or wood pigeon, or wax eye? And why are the ones that fly given English names, and the walking, wading, snuffling birds left alone? Yeah, that was my first reading of that poem. Yeah, I thought I'd just do something different, eh? I've written a book called Hopurangi, which this is, can't see it, Hopurangi, which means song catcher. It's just come out, and this is the one I wrote on Facebook. And basically I was following the traditional Māori lunar calendar, the Maramataka. So today in our calendar it's Oike, which is a medium energy kind of day, a day to be mindful, to take stock. And when I wrote this poem, Three Birds Flew From Me, it was a low energy day. It was called Tamatea Kai Ariki. So each day of our lunar month has a different name rather than, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Three birds flew from me, and then in brackets, low energy, continue to be cautious, offer support to others. Three birds flew from me, a sparrow from my chest, a tui out my throat, a piwaiwaka from my thigh. They flew to see my father, to let him know I am well. Then the monarch butterflies took their turns to see my grandmother. Once they saw the birds were safely flown. And then the bees came back to the field to help the new manuka, ake, harakeke, tōtara, tikoka, and kōwhai bring back the birds. And those last names are names of our trees and plants. And then I've got a poem called Aoraki. And Aoraki is the mountain that our tribe recognizes in our tribal pepeha, or our saying to identify ourselves. And that row of mountains connects with Aoraki eventually. Aoraki was a member of the Aotearoa crew who got petrified once sunlight struck, and so some of our ancestors are mountains. So my ancestor Hikaroroa, for instance, is our mountain on the coast near Kāi Tahu. And so this is a medium energy day. And what I do in the poem is I put brackets to indicate the energy levels. So for low energy, I just have 1 or 2 brackets. But for medium, I've got 6 brackets on either side. Okoro, come closer to me. For aro kaihe, which is another tupuna, I read our traditional atlas, our Kāi Tahu atlas, which gives the place names and their significance. It's all online. It's amazing. Come closer to me, said Kirikiri Katata, where the snow endures, so I can see you forever. Moka Atua will be just fine. So aro kaihe moved to an even higher place. Ka tiritiri o te moana, to be mountains with him and others from the capsize. But Mauka Atua was not fine. Officials drew lines to him on a map to fix their boundaries, trying to chain the god mountain. The government officials forgot their own people's stories when making these defining choices, forgot how to love the people who had loved them as people too. They needed to share their faces. Kanohi, ki te kanohi. I've got another one called Ariroa, which was written after I read Maya Angelou's poem, When Great Trees Fall. So it's a low energy day, When Great Trees Rise, this is called. When great trees rise, they start small, taking on the dewdrops in summer, bending with the birds' wings as they lift to twitter in the blossoming plum tree, taking their time to grow and grow and grow up. How are we going for time?
You know, Professor Sullivan, that's a great question, right? You're asking a Tongan, how are we doing with time? I don't know. I don't know what. I have no answer. But yes, I do see you, John.
We're good. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'll read one more. I'll recite this poem. So I hope I remember it. It's called Karakia. So I opened with a karakia. I thought I'd close with a karakia. Or prayer. Or pule, I think is another term. I touch Papatua Nuku, my earth mother. Give hands up to Ranginui, my sky father, then beat both wings of the heart. Scull it down through the pelvis to a rose water bowl filling with stones. Chance, angst, loneliness, failure. Dip hands in this, sprinkle heads in clarity, pass the speech of people on. Blush and touch, make love slowly, be careful. We slide in a round of writhing weeds that thresh a jive expressed in a loud way. Persevere, beat your heart's wings. Fly out to greet them. Shout he to the ground. Shout ha to the sky. Through these veins, people give and take fine as those crossing a petal, floating on a bowl. Health to you, brother, we hongi. Health to you, sister, we kiss. Splash your paddles, breathe deeply, drink up. We've got a chant of unbroken tones to toast. A meeting on respected grounds, an open sound so pure it shakes the host. Kia ora tātou.
Wow. Malo ngawe lahi. The malo ngawe puka whanua, Professor Dr. Sullivan. Thank you so much. You know, relatives, Dr. Sullivan was very, very humble in his offering today. Perhaps I could just share a little bit who Professor Sullivan is, and this is just a short little bio. I just wanted to share with those of you who are here. Actually, he's a poet. He's a renowned poet. The author of 9 books of poetry, as well as a graphic novel and an award-winning book of Maori legends for children. Many of you have probably read this next book too. He co-edited with Uncle Albert Wend and Reina the anthologies of the Polynesian poetry in English, Fetu Moana. As well as, I just wanted to share that he also received one of the many awards that Dr. Sullivan received, is that he received the 2022 Lauris Edmond Memorial Award for distinguished contribution to New Zealand poetry. And that's just some of his many, many contributions. We really want to say thank you so much. Thank you again. Thank you again, Dr. Sullivan, for your beautiful and also humble offering to the Whanua. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And by the way, you're also logging in from Aotearoa, New Zealand. That means so much to us. That means so much to us. And so kia ora to you and to all our relatives that if you're not logging on right now, we also know from our past experiences with our work doing poetry, Pacifica poetry on Zoom with the San Francisco Public Library, is that this video is also going to travel and it's going to be used by classrooms all over the world. So we are so humbled. Thank you so much again. So much love.
Aloha nui lua. Aloha nui.
Aloha nui. And our last poet is actually the steward of the land that brought us here. Really, that's it, right? As we also heard from our young little sister Mahealani, she's Kim Shuck, Auntie Kim Shuck, can be described as one of the kia'i as well, right? Her work as a poet, tracing her ancestral roots to her Cherokee Nation land and ancestors as well. So, Auntie Kim Shuck, we thank you so much for your great love. Thank you for showing us that poetry is a medicine, and it is a cultural practice, and it is something that's so special to us that this is not something that the West gave us, but this is an ancestral knowledge. That this is traditional ecological knowledge that we're sharing, that we're also humbly reminding also our relatives to please join us, because this is something that is ours. So, Auntie Kim Shuck, with great love, we give the space to you.
Thank you so much. Wado to everybody who's here. My ancestry tracks back to the East Coast, so I'm 3,000 cultures away from my homeland, and we were moved because of extractive practices. There was gold found on our land, so we were shipped to Oklahoma. So my father's roots are in northeastern Oklahoma personally, but our roots go back to specifically for our village, northern Georgia, what's now northern Georgia, and I can't go there because there's a military base on it. But I'm the first person to go back to the homeland generally in my family since the 1820s when we were removed. And one thing that I know when we do these, it's really important to let Fui thank everybody, because there is a cultural difference between Tongan and Anihuia people, which is I would just feed you. So I want to say that without a whole lot of talking about it. So if people find themselves in San Francisco, connect with me so that I can fix the fact that I haven't fed you at this event. There are a couple things I can cook, I was with Kanaka Maoli man for 15 years. He is the father of my children. And so I know that about the cultural problem that I have, being a little terse about that stuff. And he's also probably the reason that we were together for so long is he's literally the first person who never asked me why I write so much about water. But it is our core power, and it's how I learned to write, because our lyric traditions originate from poems that are written and offered to water in the morning. I practice serial monogamy with my rivers. So I'm going to go backwards from Berkeley to Oklahoma with this. That mountain is where time rises off east. Can't see it this close to the hills. Renamed for someone else's fear, but dawn and water still rise in this range, singing songs of time and other ways that we keep thoughts from colliding dangerously. Strike, slip, transform boundary, earth changes, caressing hand of water, press of water, teaching language, traces the fault line, imprecise as any line, sometimes strike, slip, creak with one licked finger or the other, makes poems about change. One eye on the library, one on the bees, the third on coyote poems, Will and Carol Lee. Creek rises around me in marshy summer breath, whispers in tones suggest strawberries, blackberries. It rhymes with the bee song. Life traces water. Life traces water. Escape the underground and come up through campus to home. The creek, steaming under the bridge. We lean into the pepperwood tree, lean in the swollen home creek. Blue, translucent old glass, echo, remaking prayers here under the oaks. 4 squirrels listening carefully where the creek becomes center street. Stand toes wide on the ghost bridge, Shattuck and Alston. I've sent poems into the creek from here, songs to Stickleback, Hitch, Sculpin. I swear we heard frogs curled in that bed that summer, frogs croaking like old floorboards, singing for attention, creek song, singing the female frogs home. Creek water feeds, shake berries too, things that heal you can kill you. Ivy they planted to catch the pollution, and now it's drying the soil and forcing the indigenes out. I dip my fingers in the creek water like mixed messages. Soap lily is a delicate lace, hound's tongue, mountain mahogany, sturdy friends running with the creek, down past Herb's house near Sacramento Street. By now, after all this time, my body is running with, fed by, cousin to this creek. Hands flat over the culvert, down near San Pablo, just for a moment, the enthusiastic fig tree sings the creek where you can't see her, where you can only hear her if it's very quiet. The shell mound is here under concrete. We stand with the creek. I can't tell anymore what's history, what evidence, what's holy mixed in with creek water. Intrusive species, longtime allies. We stand over the creek, weave prayers into the fence, another kind of weaving, another spell or prayer. You choose. Strawberry Creek sings her own name in a voice, in voices, sometimes in ours, gentle and terrible. John, can you put my picture up, please? John Smalley. Okay. And this is a picture of a bridge I spent a lot of time on in my childhood. It's over the Neosho. And I'm really grateful that Ken Laxton took this picture because it's one of my favorites. I used to sit there with my legs dangling between the slats there and fish for crappie. Bridges and crossroads. WPA bridge over the Neosho. I stood on it in full flood with my dad, the water just kissing the undersides of the boards, the river moans, shivering up my legs. It stood until a flood licked out the footings. They replaced it. But when I dream the Neosho, the old bridge is there. They took the zinc out until they hit the daylight of 3rd Street. You could see the crack in the pavement. It looked like another pothole, and there was sunlight in the mine. Sunlight just there, with the dull ache of lead and the grim scowl of Jack. Those cottonmouths know some songs, too. They know some fish songs. And once, crossing Tar Creek Bridge, a grandma snake got hit by a pickup. And in her last breaths, we drove up on her there like a burning library, her songs falling away in curls, taken by updrafts like smoke prayers near the water. She looked me in the heart and whispered just the one secret. Thank you so much for being here with us. It's been wonderful for me, and I appreciate everyone. I really appreciate you for all the work you did for this, John, for making this possible. You're all amazing, and now I have to go look up all of your publications. And if you don't have a publication, contact me. I will get something of yours published, because it's really important that these words get out there. Thank you so much.
We love you, Kim. We love you, Kim. Auntie Kim. And I see Elisa over here. She's going to check me again. That's right, Sister Elisa. Auntie Kim.
Okay.
Auntie Kim,
Right.
we're so grateful to you. We're so grateful for bringing us together. Thank you so much. Malo tahiva, momau Pacifica kainga iheni I California. Malo pito ngawe puke fonua. Thank you so much for your great work, Kim. Also to maintain our sacred relationships. And thank you so much also for your great work to honor and to honor our land, our sacred Mother Earth. Thank you so much. That is the work that brings all of us, Lehua, Robert, Dr. Robert Sullivan, Jayna, Nikki, Mahealani, Leila, and also myself. Thank you so much. Sending so much love to all of you. And thank you to all our relatives who are also on Zoom. I know it's dinner time. And Auntie Kim, I wish we could all come to dinner at your house right now.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Right? And please give our love to Doug as well. So lots of love to everybody. Thank you so much, John.
Thank you, everyone. Lots of love.
Dinner. Happy dinner to everyone.
Thank you so much, everybody. Bye, Auntie Kim.